I didn't feel nothing. And I called 40, 50 people trying to get me out of Wichita. I needed to be at court in Nebraska the next week. And, you know, even my dad, I called my father, and my father said, well, son, you got yourself into that. You get yourself out of it. Reality hit me in the face. You know, if it wasn't for my brothers in Path to Miracles, I wouldn't be sitting here today. That's a hard thing for a guy like me, man. My name's Kale Holloway. My sobriety date is April 20th, 2016. Man, I started drinking at a pretty early age. I couldn't ever fit in. You know, in school, I got in trouble a lot, and I got real comfortable with consequences. So I started drinking. Man, it wasn't a year later, I was in courtroom, and I've probably been on paper, you know, since I was about 13, 14 years old. You know, with the court systems. And so as I grew up, I went through high school, I was always real popular. You know, I was a great football player, great wrestler. Everybody loved me, but I just was always out of place. And so I got out of high school, and I didn't do nothing with my life. I went and, you know, I started working, and I got my first DUI when I was 20. And then I've had 7 since. I just went through all the court systems and went to jail, and I've just been living the wild, crazy life. I roughnecked for 8 years on and off, and I got into some drugs, you know, and you know, that's when it all just started. About a DUI every year since I was 20, you know. And I was finally, this last time, you know, I had 2 back-to-back. I was looking at 13 years in prison between Nebraska and Kansas. And I was sitting in county, and I decided, well, maybe I need to try to do something different. I hit my bottom, and I was stuck in a little trailer park up in Wichita, Kansas. I'd been partying with the wrong crowd, and I took a bottle of Fireball, man, and I remember the sun coming down in the west, you know, and I was sitting up against my flatbed of my pickup, and I took a big old drink. I was just so high, and messed up, and man, I didn't feel nothing. And I called 40, 50 people trying to get me out of Wichita. I needed to be at court in Nebraska the next week. And, you know, even my dad, I called my father, and my father said, well, son, you got yourself into that. You get yourself out of it. Reality hit me in the face. I was lost. So I ended up, I went back, I got back to Nebraska. I had a friend come get me, and I ended up in Nebraska, and I went to jail. And while I was in jail, I had my family looking around for some treatments. I told them I didn't want to go to treatment in Kansas because I knew everybody. And I think my older sister found Rob's Ranch on the internet or something. And I showed up at Rob's Ranch January 20th, 2017, man. I thought it was you know, I didn't know what to think. I knew it was a lot better than county. I thought it was paradise, really. I was like, wow, this is easy. And then you know, I went probably good 40, 50 day stint. You know, I just kind of sat around. I went to everything, but I didn't, you know, I'm extremely guarded. I've done everything alone my whole life. You know, I had a job, and so I wasn't unmanageable or nothing. You know, I paid for all my crap and moved out when I was 16, had a job. But I got to Rob's Ranch, man, and I started looking around the room. And I remember being in my first group, and I remember seeing all the older guys that had lost their families and, you know, their kids and all this. And these guys are like 50, 60 years old. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, I don't want to be like those guys. And so I started, you know, listening. I started kind of dumping my past. And I started bawling like a baby in groups, and you know, just letting the healing work. You know, I mean, that's what it's all about to me now. If I got feelings, man, I'm doing something right. I've never had feelings for anything, you know, except the last 2.5 years. It's kind of crazy, but so I went through here, you know, and I was in a group one day, and this guy shows up, and he's got a brand new baby, right? This guy's got a brand new baby, and I'm like, what is this guy doing here in our group? You know, and it was Jeremy Gray, and he brings this brand new baby in to our group, and I remember thinking, I was just like, wonder who this guy is, and why would he want to bring his brand new baby to one of these groups with us losers in here? I remember thinking that, and man, I was just like, I gotta get to know this guy. You know, I remember he talked, and he started bawling about his kid and everything, and I was just like, man. So I got to know him, and then I found out he had a sober living house, and then I started, you know, when I started surrendering to this whole deal and letting people help me, I started listening to the sober living houses bringing meetings. You know, I started talking to the guys in the meetings that they were bringing, and I had a buddy in here. He wasn't going to go to sober living, and he ended up going with me. But me and him decided that, you know, maybe we'll go to sober living, which I had no place to go anyway, so it was no big deal for me. I mean, I was like, okay, yeah. I didn't really want to move into a city, but other than that, I didn't have any problem with it. I'd been around men for a whole year, you know, in jail and everything else, so. But so I ended up, I transitioned out of Rob's Ranch. I actually had a sentencing date while I was here in Kansas, and instead of giving me prison time, they only gave me a year on corrections, and they gave me a huge fine, and, you know, I lost my license and a bunch of stuff, but they let me interstate my corrections, my DOC corrections, to Oklahoma City so I could go to sober living. So I walked out of here at 11 o'clock on April 19th, 2017. And I was at Jeremy Gray's front door of House 2 in Path to Miracles at like 12:30, 12:40. I went and ate with my folks, and that's all I did. I went right to that house. You know, I started, you know, my first 3 months was fairly simple. I got a job with a buddy out of here, and that lasted for a while, and then I didn't have a job, and then life started hitting me. You know, everywhere I've been, I've always worked for my habits. You know, and then I got in the city, and I didn't have a license. I didn't have reliable transportation. I couldn't drive anywhere, so I couldn't find a job. And, you know, I got real irritable, and for a good 2-3 months, man, I was just a mess. I was a prick to guys in the house, and but I did what I was taught here at Rob's Ranch. You know, I talked to them guys in there. You know, if it wasn't for my brothers in Path to Miracles, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Because without that brotherhood, you know, oh, sorry. Without the brotherhood that you get, without that, man, I'd be lost today. Because those strangers, those guys that, you know, they don't even know you, and they love on you, and they just walk you through. I mean, they gear me up for life, you know, because I didn't know how to live life, not without alcohol and drugs, you know. And I got out of here, and I made a choice that I was going to do everything I was told. And that's a hard thing for a guy like me, man, because I never in my life have ever listened to anybody. So I guess you take that pride away from me, and you know, I was lost, so I had to get help. But man, going to Path to Miracles, I finally got a job, and everything all worked out, of course, you know, because I got out of the way. You know, I just started. There's new guys coming in. I found myself helping other guys out and talking to them, and man, it's just a blessing, you know, what you'll get out of this deal. And you find guys like Jeremy Gray, and you know, all the Chris Flannery, all the other guys, and Joe Pello, and you know, all them guys love us, you know. And you know, love's a big part of my program today, because all I did was hate all the time. So, you know, they told me in here to, you know, do the exact opposite of what you did before, man. And I don't know, I guess I got a big heart or something, but I just love being a part of the Brotherhood of Sober Living. I still hang out with the guys. I moved out just here recently, and you know, life's life. I mean, it's not all perfect, and you know, I actually miss it a lot. But I still go back. I hang out with the guys. I've been back to a meeting or two, and you know, I still stay in contact with my brothers. And you know what sober living did for me is, I mean, it got me connected into recovery. You know, because without the structure, you know, of going to meetings and going to church and getting that spirituality back. You know, my dad was a preacher growing up, and I knew all about God when I got here. You know, I knew all about the Bible, but I wasn't spiritual, you know. And my life today is about spirituality and helping other people. And that is the exact opposite of what I used to be. You know, I've flipped a 180 of my whole life. I'm just so grateful, you know, and to be back here. You know, I got a day off. I got to come out here and talk, and I mean, everybody likes to talk, and I just love it out here. It's so peaceful, and you get chills when you come out, and you feel the presence of God, man. And, you know, it's something, and the feeling, that's something a lot of us have never had. You know, guys like Jeremy Gray, man, he can really talk you through some stuff, and and love you and, you know, help you out. And, I mean, and I'm a complete stranger to here. You know, I'm not from here, nothing. Them guys, they just welcomed me and, you know, taught me how to live in recovery. I'm just living walking proof today, I guess, for today. You know, that's how I try to do it.